What is up? GoodMicWork back at you. Welcome to episode 414. It's gonna be a big one. We've got tons of stuff to talk about this week. I literally have about 4 pages of notes pulled up here on my computer screen, so we've got a lot to get into. First off, I just want to welcome everybody back. Hope you guys are having a great week. I also want to welcome all the new listeners that have come aboard recently. I have noticed that my YouTube growth has been pretty solid lately. A good part of that is probably due to TVTrax featuring me, but I would also like to think that I grow a little bit on my own as well. So if you enjoy what you hear in this video, please give that like button a click. Let's go bold this time. Let's shoot for 300 likes. Try to help me out if you can. I would appreciate it. Also, please subscribe to this channel if you have not yet already, and follow me on Twitter at GoodMicWork. I'm very vocal on Twitter, and I'm always up there, as most of you know, for all the pay-per-views and most Monday Night Raws live tweeting. I also have a Facebook page, of course. Please give that a like. Go to GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com, where you can watch all of these YouTube videos or download the podcast version of all of my episodes, and you can even find me on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. As far as what we're going to get into this week, just to kind of give you a rundown, of course, I'm going to review this past week's Raw and SmackDown for February 27th and February 28th. We have WWE FastLane coming up this Sunday, March 5th. I'm going to predict that entire card for you. We're also going to look ahead to WrestleMania. And I'll be getting into a bunch of other wrestling news at the end of this video as well. I'll probably elaborate a little bit more on Tom Phillips, talk about some of the recent TNA departures and WWE departures, my thoughts on the futures of a couple of WWE Hall of Famers, and I'll probably even throw out a few opinions on the recently announced YouTube cable service that's going to be launched in a couple of months as well. So why don't we start with Monday Night Raw? I'll review that show first, then we'll get into the FastLane predictions, and then I'll talk about SmackDown and everything else. That'll probably be the format for this episode. Raw this past week, for the first time in about 5 weeks, I actually don't think was a good show. This week it felt like the show was pretty much unanimously disliked, where that has not been the case for the past month. So that's kind of a bummer, especially considering that it's a go-home show to a pay-per-view, especially one that's going to carry us into WrestleMania. And on top of that, the show was in Green Bay, I believe, right? And that crowd was horrible. Jesus Christ, they were really making me mad. They were boring, they were silent, and they really pissed me off during the Seth Rollins segment, which I'll get into here in a little bit. But the show opened with Goldberg coming out, cut the typical Goldberg-like promo that we've seen from him recently, handled himself just fine, but didn't say anything earth-shattering. I was just happy that he didn't botch it and he didn't bust his head open on his dressing room door. Kevin Owens then interrupts and comes out to the stage wearing the suit for the second straight week. I really like this Kevin Owens. It's so good to see him back. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit that I loved everything he did with Chris Jericho. Some of the funniest and most entertaining moments I've seen on WWE TV in a long time was with the two of those guys. But at the same time, it's nice to see Owens finally break away from that goofy nonsense. This guy is a world champion, but hasn't really been booked like a very strong world champion. So it was nice to see him finally annihilate Jericho and move on to a more serious attitude. And he was supremely confident in his promo, telling Goldberg that I'm not going to have any trouble beating you at Fastlane. I'm on the roster having wars every single night. You haven't really been in the ring in 12 years. You're old, you're washed up, and the longer the match goes, the more it's in my favor, and prepare to get beat. The one thing I will say that's kind of a shame about this title match and this title feud, I guess if you can call it that, is that they haven't really been able to do much on TV because Goldberg is such a part-timer. He's only going to be working the matches that he's advertised for. He's never going to wrestle on Raw. I mean, hell, him and Owens haven't even had any physical contact throughout this whole thing. How many times do you see that happen? And that's just basically because of Goldberg's schedule and how WWE doesn't want to expose him too much or use him too much, because his match with Brock Lesnar, there's a lot riding on that at WrestleMania. They're counting on it to be a big draw. They've done a good job so far with what they did at the Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble. It's a turn that I didn't expect the feud between Brock and Goldberg to take when it was first announced. So I'm actually enjoying all of that, but it's hurting, I think, his match with Kevin Owens, because we don't see Goldberg that much, and all you're getting is Owens out there kicking Jericho's ass and cutting promos on Goldberg, saying he's going to beat him, and there's nothing else. They didn't even do a contract signing or anything like that where Kevin Owens could maybe get speared, or maybe Owens could attack Goldberg and beat him up, giving Goldberg even more reason to beat the shit out of Kevin Owens and take his title at Fastlane. They didn't do anything like that. It was just a couple of promos. The promos weren't bad, and Kevin Owens is awesome, but still, I feel like this world title feud is missing something, and I'll be getting into my predictions, of course, later on. I'm still inclined to predict Goldberg. I think there's too many factors at work here, especially if Goldberg and Brock are the main event of WrestleMania. If they are, a title belt must be on the line for that. Otherwise, I think it will be a little bit disappointing and could potentially diminish your other two world titles. So if those guys are going to close the show, having a belt on the line is not something I'm going to complain about. Plus, you think about what Kevin Owens did to Chris Jericho a couple of weeks ago, and we haven't seen him on TV. FastLane could be the perfect place for him to pop back up. But just to reiterate what I said a couple of weeks ago, even though it seems obvious Jericho could interfere in the match, I don't know why he would have to. When you look at what Goldberg did to Brock Lesnar, beating him in 90 seconds, tossing him out of the Royal Rumble, and completely humiliating this guy that has been an unstoppable, feared beast in the WWE for the past 4 years, why would Goldberg even need any help to beat Kevin Owens? So it'll be interesting to see how they book the main event and how it's all written out and what they do and who gets involved and how they wind up putting the belt on Goldberg and how long can they let this match go. And there's a big part of me that just wonders that maybe, just maybe, and I know a lot of fans would throw up at this thought, so don't think it's my idea or I want it to happen or anything like that, but I think it's possible that maybe Goldberg beats Kevin Owens in 1 minute or something like that. What if he goes out there and completely smashes him? Which would suck for Kevin Owens, but it would give Goldberg even that much more momentum going into WrestleMania to face Brock, because you gotta know, that's a predictable main event. If they do Goldberg and Brock, we know the outcome of that. There's no way Goldberg is gonna beat him again. So you would think they would have to do as much stuff as possible to make the fans think, well, shit, maybe Goldberg will win. I'll get into my final prediction on that match in a little while, but right now it's kind of feeling like Goldberg's gonna take the belt. There's a whole lot of things they can do. Jericho, like I said, can get involved. Brock could get involved, although I don't know why he would want to. I mean, if you're Brock, you want Goldberg to win the Universal title and go into WrestleMania, because Brock Lesnar, think about how he lost that belt. He lost that belt at WrestleMania a couple of years ago when Seth Rollins cashed in the Money in the Bank. He never really got a chance to regain it. I think he had that one title match, right, with Seth. I forgot what pay-per-view that was, and that's when The Undertaker, I think it was Battleground, right, and The Undertaker showed up, setting up Brock and Taker's match at SummerSlam. So Brock really never got a chance to get that belt back, although that was the WWE title. We're talking about the Universal title here. So all signs are kind of pointing to Goldberg winning that belt and defending against Brock, but Brock has no reason to interfere in the Goldberg and Owens match because he should want Goldberg to win. And then there's also Triple H that could get involved in this thing. Maybe Samoa Joe, who knows what they can do, but at the end of the day, Goldberg might be wearing that big red belt, or possibly not red. Did you guys see the story? Apparently there might be a new Universal title being created. A few of you sent me the pic on Twitter. I'll put it up on the screen here. The plates or the medallions might be changed to silver. I think they might be a little bit more gold now on the red one. I'm not even sure. And I have no idea what color the strap is going to be. Maybe black. I'm fine with that because I like the black strap on all belts, but that's going to make it look an awful lot like the belt on SmackDown. So I don't know. There might be a new Universal title being created. There might not be. But either way, I think a belt is actually going to look pretty good around Goldberg's waist if he does in fact win it. It'll only be a month-long reign. They can put the belt back on Brock, and I'm not going to complain about any of that because I love Brock. So that's the direction it appears that they are going in, but still a lot can change. There's plenty of weeks before we get to WrestleMania. The other big news on Raw was, of course, the big Seth Rollins interview. This was an in-ring interview that he did with Corey Graves. They had hyped it all week that he's going to be on Raw to announce his status for WrestleMania. And there was a lot about this promo I liked, and there was a lot about this promo that I hated. Number one, as much as I love Seth Rollins, he is a terrible actor. Jesus Christ. I mean, his music hits, and he comes out there hobbling down on a crutch and the leg brace just like he's fucking Tiny Tim. I mean, he's overacting the hell out of it. He's wincing and grimacing as he's coming up the steps. He's struggling to get in the ring, and you can clearly see the pain on his face. We get it, Seth. Your fucking knee hurts. I think Seth only needed to really walk out there, maybe limping a little bit. I don't even think he needed the crutch. The fans know what happened to him. They know how serious it is. WWE sometimes, I think, believes that their fans are so fucking stupid that they have to make it crystal clear. I mean, absolutely beyond obvious when somebody has an injury. Anytime they want to get any point across at all these days, they just overproduce the shit out of it, and it drives me crazy. And Seth Rollins, I think, was just overacting a little bit. And when he was walking to the ring so gingerly, to me, that gave it away. As soon as I saw how much trouble Seth had walking down the ramp, I was like, you know what? He's completely fine. We will see you at WrestleMania, Seth. There is no way you're going to get in the ring now and say, sorry, I can't work. You're obviously acting. You're obviously overselling this a lot. And most likely you're going to cut a little heartfelt promo only to turn around and tell us that you're going to be working Mania after all. I was hoping Mark Henry might give him some pointers on how to swerve the audience, but he didn't have me fooled for a second. To me, it was completely obvious. His promo wasn't even that good, and I hate to say that. He was giving cutting a very sympathetic promo, a really hardcore babyface promo, but the fans were completely dead during it, and then these motherfuckers chant CM Punk. And that's when I just was like, you know what? I'm so sick of wrestling fans. This is unreal. Somebody please tell me what in the hell is the point of chanting CM Punk at the most random times. I know the fans like to be dicks. I know they like to sabotage shows with that shit. Same thing with the what chants. Sometimes it can be fun, and sometimes it comes at the most inopportune and inappropriate times, and the fans had no business chanting this shit during this promo, and I'm so sick and tired of hearing people say, oh, you buy a ticket, you can do whatever you want. Not true. You can't go to concerts or symphonies and fucking do this shit and heckle all the time. There is a line that needs to be drawn there, I think. Nobody deserves to be thrown out of the building or anything like that, but just have a little bit of respect, and don't chant something that has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on in the ring just to be an annoying fan. I remember back in the day when I would sometimes have the nerve, the balls, the crazy idea to somewhat defend John Cena. Not all the time. I wouldn't always defend WWE's booking or pushing of him. I would just try to be a little bit more realistic about the fans complaining so badly about this guy. And I say, okay, you're right about this, this, and this, but you're also very, very wrong about this, this, and this. And just that very idea of looking at both sides of the argument and have the nerve to slightly defend the guy from time to time had fans calling me things like sheep. You're just a WWE sheep. Wrong, motherfucker. You know who the sheep are in the wrestling community? It's the fans like this that chant CM Punk. Because you know why? They're just going along with what everybody else around them is doing. That's the very definition of a sheep. Probably over half of the fans that are even chanting CM Punk or chanting what at the most inappropriate time are only joining in. They hear everybody else doing it, and then they join in too. And these are the very same fans that if they hear somebody like me defend John Cena or Roman Reigns, they call me a sheep. It's just one of the most ass-backward double standards that exist in professional wrestling, and I find it horribly disrespectful. Sometimes the CM Punk chants don't bother me too bad because there are times when WWE pisses me off, and sometimes their booking of something or a decision they make is so horrendously bad that when the fans want to chant CM Punk and fuck up the show, I'm actually not that mad about it. But this is a big time match. Seth Rollins versus Triple H potentially at WrestleMania. Seth Rollins is generally loved and respected by the wrestling fans. We all know he can work. We all know he can go. He's a hell of an athlete. I think everybody should have shown this segment a little bit more respect than just chanting CM Punk for no fucking reason at all. And I did see, when is Raw in Chicago? Is it this week? It might be the night after FastLane. I know they got a Raw coming up in Chicago here soon. So if those fans want to go balls nuts and chant CM Punk, that's perfectly fine. It's Chicago. They're probably never going to stop doing that. Plus, the Chicago audience is a lot more exciting than a lot of other audiences around the country, especially that shit-ass crowd in Green Bay. So it's a trade-off there. Chicago crowd is always very fun. It's a hometown boy. They want to chant it randomly. I can almost let that go, but it really bothered me when the fans were chanting CM Punk during Seth Rollins' promo when he's trying to get this angle over, and they're just out there with their thumbs up their ass chanting random shit for no reason. So get your shit together, fans, and think a little bit more before you just start screaming out dumb shit at wrestling shows. So anyway, that's my little mini rant there on the fans in Green Bay. But getting back to Seth's promo, it also wasn't that great. A lot of people were praising it because he was doing a good job of being that babyface that's trying to get sympathy from the audience, but just like him walking down to the ring was just a little bit overacted and oversold, I don't think he was very convincing in his promo either. Triple H actually saved this promo because Triple H came out there after Seth Rollins basically told the audience that he's not going to work WrestleMania. His knee is not going to be healed in time to work the show, and that's when Triple H's music hits. He comes out, cuts a promo on the ring apron. Samoa Joe is also on the other side of the ring standing guard, basically ready to pounce and attack. He's operating, I guess, as Triple H's muscle or bodyguard. Not that Triple H really needs it, but Joe is out there to provide that extra edge. And then Triple H just gets on the apron and cuts one of the best promos I've heard from him in a long time. One of the best promos we've heard at least this year. And I think really did a good job of saving this segment. I know we all like to criticize Triple H for shoehorning himself into every WrestleMania to give himself a match, but at least the guy doesn't suck. At least he can cut a promo. At least he can work. There's a lot of worse guys that can come in and work a match every WrestleMania and get that big payday. payday. So at least if we're going to get a guy like this having his match every year, at least Triple H takes it seriously. At least he cuts good promos, keeps himself in good shape, and puts on good matches. It could be a lot worse. So even though I roll my eyes a little bit whenever Triple H has to have a match every single year, he can pull off some pretty good segments, and this one was great. And the way he was talking to Seth Rollins, what a disappointment, what a failure he was. And he told him, he goes, I swear on my life, if you show up at WrestleMania, it will be the last thing you ever do. So then I started thinking, well shit, maybe the Seth Rollins Triple H match isn't even going to be a match. Maybe they're going to let us wonder what the hell's going to happen with these two, and maybe it's just going to be a confrontation. Maybe it's going to be a brawl. Maybe Seth is going to come out to the ring and call out Triple H in the middle of WrestleMania, and the two of them just brawl for 20 minutes and settle their issue that way. But then finally, Seth does say to Triple H, after Triple H is done with his promo, he says, Hunter, I will be at WrestleMania. And they kind of left it at that. So they didn't necessarily sign the match. It wasn't a challenge that was accepted or anything like that. All Seth said is that I will be at WrestleMania. So I guess next week and in weeks leading up to WrestleMania, they'll have to officially announce the match. Maybe they're going to do the angle where Seth is still hurt. I mean, hell, he was on crutches on Raw. So it's not like he's going to be walking around like normal in the next 2 weeks. He will probably stay on crutches. Maybe he's faking the whole thing. Remember what Bret Hart did to Vince McMahon when he staged that incident in the back where the car like ran over his foot or ankle or something like that, and he was coming out there in a cast, and then they did the contract signing, and Vince McMahon couldn't wait to sign the contract because he knew he was going to go into WrestleMania to face a one-legged man. And then Vince turns away to start talking to the audience or something like that, and when he turns around, Bret Hart has his cast on the contract table, showing Vince McMahon that he was never hurt at all. He just needed to find a way to get Vince McMahon to sign his name on that contract. Now that it's signed, Vince McMahon is going to get absolutely raped at WrestleMania, and that's what happened. So maybe they take that idea and do it with Seth and Triple H, and maybe Seth is not as injured as he's letting on, and he comes out there the next few weeks on crutches and limps around, and Triple H says, I'm warning you, if you want this match, you think your leg is in bad shape now, you step into that ring with me at WrestleMania, I will break it off and beat the fuck out of you with it, is what I think they should do, and have Triple H say, hey, I'm warning you, one last chance, do not sign the contract for this match because you are going to get murdered. And then Seth does, and maybe the final week, maybe the go-home show, he's walking around pretty good on that leg, finally attacks Triple H, big brawl that spills out into the audience, maybe a big table spot, and that can be how you lead into Mania. So I am happy to see that most likely it does look like Seth Rollins is going to work WrestleMania. I would have been absolutely heartbroken if he had to miss 2 in a row. So it looks like he's going to be good to go. He's going to work with Triple H after all. That's going to have to be the match they do, pedigree versus pedigree, and hopefully, like I've been saying for a long time, maybe after this feud with Triple H, Seth Rollins will stop using the fucking pedigree and find a new finisher because that one sucks. Speaking of contracts, on Raw, the main event was actually a contract signing between Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns. Strowman had approached Mick Foley backstage earlier on and says that he's worried that Roman Reigns is actually going to try to back out of his match at FastLane. And Mick Foley's like, I don't think you have to worry about that. And Strowman's like, I don't care. I don't trust him. I want his name on a contract. And Foley's like, fine, whatever. So they do the whole thing. Both guys are out there. Before the contracts get signed, Strowman beats the shit out of Roman Reigns again. If you've noticed, Strowman has annihilated Roman Reigns every week. Even last week, after Strowman had that grueling match with the Big Show, Roman comes out there to attack, and Strowman is still strong enough to turn the tables and leave Roman Reigns laying as the show goes off the air. And the same thing goes with this contract signing. He beats the hell out of Roman Reigns. Roman gets a lot of offense too. They're brawling everywhere. I think Roman even spears Strowman through the barricade over by the timekeeper's table or something like that, and Strowman still gets up, gets in the ring, beats the hell out of Roman Reigns, and then throws him right into the turnbuckles. Roman did like that Bret Hart chest first turnbuckle bump, and he hit it so hard that the entire top rope broke right off. It looked pretty good. They had it set up and gimmicked, obviously, for that to happen, but the whole bump looked pretty good, and Roman really bounced hard right into the turnbuckle and bounced all the way back into the middle of the ring. And Strowman is walking away as he demolishes Roman Reigns yet again, and then the show goes off the air with Roman pulling himself to his knees and then getting on the table, leaning on the table, and signing the contract anyway. So pretty good little segment, pretty good brawl. I would have much preferred, I guess, to have Samoa Joe and Cesaro be the main event rather than the contract signing bullshit. But they're doing a really good job of booking Strowman strong. I mean, he has completely owned Roman Reigns in every encounter that they've had. And if, like I said, Roman Reigns does in fact go on to WrestleMania to face The Undertaker, this is a perfect way to get Braun Strowman a victory over a major opponent. I mean, Braun Strowman can completely demolish Roman Reigns in the weeks leading up to Fastlane, and then maybe he can even get a victory against Roman at Fastlane, because none of that's going to hurt Roman any. If he does in fact go into WrestleMania and defeat The Undertaker, they'll forget all about his losses at the Royal Rumble, on Monday Night Raw, at Fastlane, because now he's one of only two guys to beat Taker at WrestleMania. And I've got him penciled in. As a matter of fact, I got to shout out Salamonster. I know he and I both kind of gave some early SummerSlam main event predictions. We both have different ones. One half of it is the same. He's got Brock Lesnar taking on Braun Strowman in the main event of SummerSlam, and that's a match that I would love to see. It seems like a match that would be inevitable, especially considering how strongly WWE is booking Strowman, but I've got a different one. I actually have Brock and Roman. I think that match would be more marquee for SummerSlam. Brock and Strowman can still be done. It could still even be done at SummerSlam. He might be right, but I think Roman and Brock almost makes the better match, because that's an issue that's also never been resolved either. I mean, don't forget, those guys wrestled at WrestleMania 31. No winner was declared. They never really got a chance to face each other again, other than a few interactions on Raws in brawls and stuff. And plus, if Roman Reigns does in fact defeat The Undertaker, you've got your main event match of SummerSlam between the only two guys that have defeated The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and a title belt could potentially be on the line. And if Roman defeats Undertaker at WrestleMania, you would think that would probably earn him another shot at the title. And with Brock being champion, that's a mega match right there that the fans, I think, would like to see again. 2.5 years after it happened the first time, and maybe Roman can actually defeat Brock. Maybe Roman will even be a heel by then. Who knows? So before the idea of Roman defeating Brock gives you a seizure, just remember that that's many months from now, and a lot can happen. And maybe, just maybe, we won't hate Roman Reigns as bad in August than we do right now. We also had more teasing of Mick Foley's obvious and eventual demise as Raw general manager. There's all these rumors that he needs hip surgery and he's going to be taking some time off anyway, and Stephanie McMahon has been on his case lately. They haven't been getting along. They have not been a very solid general manager and commissioner unit. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon are much more stable than these two, and Stephanie is just such a bitch, and she cut another promo on him again backstage where she talked about how magnificent her husband is and how he seems to always get stronger, and Mick Foley seems to get weaker day by day. Basically calling Foley a spineless, weak piece of shit shell of himself. I mean, the whole deal, just letting him have it. And she said, you used to be a guy that's a WWE legend that would stand up to anything, and now you can barely stand up at all. So clearly Mick Foley's days are numbered. I guess they're probably going to wait until after WrestleMania. There's also big rumors that Kurt Angle is going to be returning to TV in the future, and probably will be after WrestleMania, probably even working a couple of matches as well, and he is kind of rumored to be the potential replacement for Mick Foley on Raw, which I like that idea because of his history with Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. I mean, there's a lot of history there. Don't forget, Stephanie used to have a crush on Kurt Angle all those years ago. So it would be cool to see Stephanie and Kurt interact again, especially in the commissioner and general manager partnership type of thing. So in that regard, I actually really like that idea. But at the same time, I feel like Raw always gets everybody. Kurt Angle was a SmackDown guy. When he was in the company, kicking ass, he was a big part of that brand. And since Raw gets Brock and Goldberg, they've even stolen Undertaker from SmackDown, now they're going to steal Kurt Angle too. I always thought if Kurt Angle came back to do anything in the WWE, he should do it on the SmackDown brand. But it's looking like that might not be likely. He might be on Raw as the general manager, and I'm torn on it. On one hand, like I said, I'd prefer to see Kurt on SmackDown, but if he was on Raw in the general manager role, I think it would be pretty entertaining. We all remember how good Kurt Angle was at cutting promos. Some of his stuff can maybe even be a little bit comedic or lighthearted at times. Maybe not stupid and funny all the time. I don't want to see Kurt Angle out there with a New Day or anything like that, but if Kurt Angle took over the general manager role, I would like to see shades of that old kind of funny Kurt Angle that we got in 1999 through 2001. And if he wrestles, oh my God, think about the guys he can work with in the WWE on Raw or SmackDown. There are a ton of names that would be so fun to watch him work with. Hell, he could even rekindle a lot of his old TNA rivalries in WWE. If he goes to Raw, who's on Raw? Samoa Joe, the guy that Kurt Angle made his TNA debut against. So he's got options out the ass there if WWE lets him wrestle, if he's healthy enough, if he passes all the necessary physicals to get back in the ring. I think Kurt Angle could have a couple of really cool opponents in the WWE. And if they made him GM too, why not? Maybe Mick Foley can still come back once he's healed up from his surgeries or whatever. I don't really want to see a revolving door of GMs. So if they bring Kurt Angle in, you would have to think that that can't be anything super long term, which means he'll probably be out at some point and somebody else will be in. So that's the only problem with these two brands. I think, you shouldn't have the same commissioner for 5 years or anything like that, but you should have him at least for a couple and not change him up so much. The Mick Foley thing is probably mostly due to his surgery, but hell, even SmackDown seems a little bit weird sometimes, and you have to wonder how long Shane is going to be around or how long Daniel Bryan is going to be around. Who knows when D-Bry's contract even ends? He might want to leave WWE and potentially wrestle again somewhere if he still has that itch. So it doesn't feel like the GMs have ever really been that secure or that stable, and I feel like either one of them can be changed at any time. But that still remains to be seen. That will probably take through WrestleMania to happen, so you guys can let me know with any ideas you might have of how to write Mick Foley off of TV. Eventually, Stephanie McMahon is going to get fed up with him. Maybe she even has him assaulted. Maybe Triple H beats the hell out of Mick Foley the next night on Raw or something like that. Maybe in Triple H's match with Seth Rollins, Mick Foley makes some sort of a stipulation that benefits Seth. Triple H loses, maybe blames Mick Foley, beats the shit out of him the next night on Monday Night Raw, injures his hip, which then leads to Mick Foley's surgery and all of that. There's even been rumors of Triple H potentially starting a new faction, a new Evolution type faction. Samoa Joe, you would have to think, would be in that, possibly even Kevin Owens as well. Maybe another NXT guy that they might call up the night after WrestleMania or something like that. And so maybe Triple H isn't the one that assaults Mick Foley, maybe his faction does. But one way or the other, I think Mick Foley needs to get hurt or something needs to be done to him to get him off TV and out of that general manager role. And there's a lot of things that they could do. I mentioned briefly a minute ago the Samoa Joe and Cesaro match that we had on Raw. That was actually a really good match. That was a really good opponent for Samoa Joe. I'm surprised I'm hearing some criticism, a little bit of criticism at least, about how Samoa Joe is being booked so far. And is WWE misusing him? Are you serious? What else do you want them to do with him? I mean, he just got there. He attacked Seth Rollins on his first night. He's at the side of Triple H. He's won all the matches he's been in so far. He defeated Roman Reigns. He defeated Cesaro on Monday Night Raw in a really good hard match. They're putting guys in front of him for him to defeat for a while. He's got a big match coming up on Sunday at FastLane with Sami Zayn, which I can see him winning that one too. Whatever he does at WrestleMania will probably be impactful. And he'll get a title shot sometime in the future. In my mind, they couldn't be using Samoa Joe any better. I mean, at least they're putting him up there on the top of the card. It's not like he's underneath farting around with Enzo and Cass or anything like that. He's involved in major shit every week, working with top guys. So I, for one, am completely satisfied with how WWE is using Samoa Joe. We knew that would be a good match on Raw with him and Cesaro. They have a lot of history from the independents. They even had a backstage interaction earlier on in the show where they kind of looked at each other and says, "How you doing? Nice to see you again." Kind of traded a few insults, and Sheamus tried to step in, and Cesaro's like, "Come on, back off. I know how to manage this. I know how to deal with this guy." Unfortunately, he didn't really handle Samoa Joe, and Joe beat him clean in a very good match on Raw. We got a ladies tag team match that was set up in a Charlotte promo. Charlotte was out there cutting a promo with Dana Brooke, talking shit about Bayley. Bayley comes out there and interrupts her, followed by Sasha, who comes out and interrupts her. There was already a tag team match pre-announced for Monday Night Raw with Sasha and Bayley taking on Charlotte and Dana Brooke. Charlotte informs Sasha and Bayley that Dana Brooke is not her partner and that Nia Jax is. And Nia Jax comes down to the ring. We go to commercial. We come back. Tag team match is underway, and Nia wins, pinning Bayley. Keeping her very strong, Nia Jax, of course, has got a match with Sasha Banks at Fastlane, and Bayley, of course, is defending the Women's Championship against Charlotte. Now, it seems pretty obvious here, just like with Seth's overselling of the knee injury, WWE, once again, thinks their fans are fucking idiots, and they are making it so goddamn crazy obvious that Sasha, at some point, is going to turn heel on Bayley. She might do it at Fastlane, she might do it at WrestleMania, she might do it on Raw, we don't know, but it was just being a little bit too obvious the way Sasha came out to the ring and started defending Bayley, and then backstage after they both lost, embarrassed. They're sitting on one of those crates together, and I think Bayley's got ice pack on her neck or something like that. Stephanie even comes in and gives both the girls shit and talks down to them. But Sasha basically tells Bayley, don't worry, I got your back. And Bayley's like, I have to have eyes in the back of my head because everybody's out to get you. And Sasha's like, don't worry, I'm here for you. Just whatever she said basically hinted strongly that Sasha is going to wind up turning heel. So she could be a big reason why Bayley winds up losing the women's title to Charlotte at Fastlane. She's got to have her match with Nia Jax first. I would imagine Nia is going to win that. Sasha is going to be beaten and frustrated, and then maybe she comes out and, I don't know, screws over Bayley, or maybe tries to help her and fucks up, and then maybe the heel turn comes the next night on Raw. Whatever they do, a heel turn seems pretty likely at this point. I'm guessing at WrestleMania, I guess it all just depends on what they do with Sasha, because if she does in fact turn heel, I think you could get Sasha versus Bayley at WrestleMania in a non-title match, and then you could get Charlotte versus Nia Jax. I mean, you saw the way the two of them dominated Sasha and Bayley, and they stood tall next to each other after they won the match. That could be a really big confrontation. I mean, it would be heel versus heel. I don't know how they would work that, but given the possibility that Nia Jax beats Sasha, a former three-time ladies champion, at Fastlane, it could launch her right into title contention. And you also have to think that Bayley is going to get a rematch if she does lose to Charlotte at Fastlane, which she probably will because Charlotte's a beast on pay-per-view. She is going to get a rematch. So I can almost envision a scenario where maybe Charlotte just beats Bayley straight up. No interference, no nothing, no heel turn, just wins back the women's title. Bayley comes out on Raw the next night as positive as ever. Yes, I lost, but I'm going to dust myself off and get back on that horse, and I want my rematch tonight right here on Raw, and that's when you get the Sasha Banks heel turn. That could actually be a perfect main event. Other than that, the rest of Raw was a whole lot of crap. We had the predictable Oscar spoof. We knew that WWE was going to do something to spoof the horrible botched finish of the Oscars. When they read that wrong name, I was expecting Vince McMahon to storm down to the stage and jump in there and tear both of his quads in the process. So we knew it was unavoidable. We knew we were going to get some sort of Oscar shit on Raw. I just wish they would have been a little bit more creative than this. Of course, the New Day comes out there, and they are going to have a tag team match, I guess, with the Shining Stars. They're walking down to the ring, and then they say, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, there's been a mistake. And one of the ring crew guys comes in and hands them an envelope and says, you're not working with the Shining Stars, you're working with Rusev and Jinder Mahal. And it got literally no pop at all. I was criticizing the Green Bay crowd for being boring and being assholes and being an overall shitty crowd, but this was one part of the show where I actually was happy that they were quiet, because WWE needs to know that this shit is just not fucking funny. The New Day is going to be hosting WrestleMania. They are going to be primarily in charge of getting that crowd hyped up and ready and entertaining them. The WWE better not write this stupid shit for them at WrestleMania. You know, when they're in the ring doing something, we gotta have a legend come back. We gotta have The Rock come out there. We have to have Stone Cold Steve Austin come out there. Maybe even the Hardy Boys, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. And my idea from last week was Hulk Hogan. I was really surprised, actually, with how many people didn't think that was a good idea. Some people disagreed with me and said that would be a terrible place to re-debut Hulk Hogan, when I can't really think of a better place. Most of that shit that went on with him is starting to kind of blow over now. You know, he'll be welcomed back into the family at some point, and I just thought him coming out there and doing a funny, entertaining segment with three black guys that embraced him and showed him a ton of love might just, I don't know, help a little bit. It was just an idea. So whatever the New Day does at WrestleMania, I just hope they incorporate some legends and they make it a hell of a lot more entertaining than what we saw from them on Monday Night Raw. By the way, they did beat Rusev and Jinder Mahal, and apparently Jinder was mad after the match. Him and Rusev were arguing. There might have even been some pushing and shoving going on as well, so they might be ready to turn Jinder babyface. He's all jacked up now. I always forget that Mahal is even on the fucking roster. Maybe they'll start doing a little bit more with Jinder, but he's one of those guys, much like Titus O'Neil, that they just are never going to do anything with, it doesn't seem. Titus had a match too. He got beat by Sheamus. And speaking of the Shining Stars, who thought they were going to have a match with the New Day, they would have to come out later and have a handicap match with the Big Show, which the Big Show easily won, squashed the hell out of both of those guys, and the word on the streets is the Big Show versus Shaq match for WrestleMania is off. Thank God. I don't give a shit about that match. I have absolutely no interest in seeing it at all. I'm a big Shaquille O'Neal fan. I like him, but don't get in the ring. WWE wants to do it for the mainstream attention. I get that, but it's not needed anymore. Everybody knows who the WWE is. They're on ESPN every day, for fuck's sake. It's not even really needed. And WWE loves these big matches. They always do this shit with Big Show. Don't forget, he is the guy that loses to all of these outsiders. So if he had a match with Shaq, you know Show would go down. He lost to Akibono. He lost to Floyd Mayweather. So the fact that this match is most likely not going to happen now, I don't even know why. I don't know what fell through. I don't know if it was a money situation or a contract situation with Shaq, or maybe it was a creative issue. I don't know. I doubt it. But whatever the case is, right now we're reading that match will probably not happen, and I am completely and totally 1 bajillion% fine with that. Put Big Show in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal and have Strowman toss him out the way Cesaro did a couple of years ago. That's what you do with the Big Show. Other than that, the only other matches I have written down for Raw were a couple of cruiserweight matches. Akira Tozawa beat Noam Dar. Kendrick comes out and kicks his ass after, cuts a promo before and after the match. Of course, he's been offering his services as Tozawa's mentor. Tozawa doesn't want anything to do with him, and Brian Kendrick now feels like he needs to teach Tozawa a lesson. Showed him lesson 1, showed him lesson 2, showed him lesson 3. On Raw, it resulted in a beatdown. I did not see 205 Live this week, but I know there was another interaction between Tozawa and Kendrick on that show as well. And I actually like this little feud because this is the first real program that I felt that WWE has had in the cruiserweight division that has not been for the cruiserweight title. It's the first underneath kind of program that they've done that actually has a little bit of continuity, and they're kind of moving forward with it, and they're not dropping it or changing directions randomly with no explanation. They're actually kind of moving along with this thing, and I like it because Brian Kendrick is a good veteran. He's a good guy to be around all these young cruiserweights, can kind of help teach them things, and plus they're on the WWE stage now. Most of them have never been there before, so to have a guy like Kendrick, who's been all over the world, including the WWE and many other promotions, having him there on that roster with the cruiserweights, I think is very beneficial to them, and I'm glad a lot of them are getting a chance to work with Brian. He's great. I've always been a Kendrick fan, and he's showing more of visibility during this program with Tozawa. We also had a tag team match with Jack Gallagher and TJ Perkins beating Neville and Nice. Neville and Nice look really good together. I mean, they're two big jacked up guys. I think they would be a great tag team on the main roster. Just call Neville and Nice NNN and put Melina with them or something like that. But they kind of look alike. They're two good looking guys, jacked up guys, very athletic but smaller. I think they could be a really good tag team on a main roster anywhere in the world. So that pretty much wraps it up for Raw. Before I get into my FastLane predictions here, though, I do want to mention that they did announce on Raw that the latest inductee for the 2017 WWE Hall of Fame class has been announced, and it's none other than Beth Phoenix. Wow. Okay, we kind of heard that Beth Phoenix was rumored to be in the Hall of Fame. I love Beth Phoenix. She's awesome. That's one of those inductees that I don't know, I mean, anybody's really worthy of going to the Hall of Fame. It's basically who WWE wants. If you've won titles or had any sort of success at all, you're eligible. I mean, hell, Coco Beware is in the Hall of Fame. I've said that a million times. If he's in there, anybody can be there. And Beth Phoenix was a very good women's wrestler, probably the best that they had on the roster at the time. She was there in the women's division when it really wasn't that credible, and she was one of the few credible workers they had there and somebody that you could respect. Won the Divas Championship a handful of times, I believe. She was in the Royal Rumble one year. She even tossed out the Great Khali, if I remember correctly. So I wouldn't say that she's unworthy, but that's kind of just a strange pick. And you guys have to tell me, to the best of my knowledge, I cannot think of any husband and wife duo that's in the Hall of Fame together. And this will be the first one. Beth Phoenix and Edge, of course, are married. They live in my old home state of North Carolina. They live in Asheville, which is just a beautiful town up in the mountains. A little too cold for GoodMicWork. I prefer the beach, but they live up there and have a great life. And I've visited that city a lot of times, and it's a cool little place. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Edge that he's found peace and found happiness in his retirement. He's got kids now, and they seem very happy together. So for the sake of their family and the Copeland household, I'm very happy for Beth Phoenix. It's going to be a pretty cool experience for them and their family. I forget if they have one kid or two. I actually don't remember, but I'm sure everybody will be there at the Hall of Fame front and center. Edge will probably be there in the front row watching her accept. I have no idea who will induct her at this point. It could probably be any number of ladies. Kelly has been recently rumored to come back to the company. It could be somebody like her. I would say most likely it would be Natalya, but it could be anybody. Who knows? So congratulations to Beth Phoenix. You are one hell of a women's wrestler, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say we love your family. Moving on now to FastLane predictions. I have 8 matches for this show written down. Hopefully I'm not missing anything. But when I first started writing down the winners, I realized that I picked nearly all heels. I think the only babyface I picked was in the main event. So I kind of went back and changed a couple of things up. So here's what I've got. We'll see how good I do. A couple of cruiserweight matches. We've got Rich Swann and Akira Tozawa taking on Brian Kendrick and Noam Dar. That might be the kickoff match. And since it is a kickoff match, I'm going to pick Swann and Tozawa to win. I had originally picked Kendrick and Dar. I think I would pick the heels if it was on the main pay-per-view. But since it's on the kickoff show, this is an opportunity for Tozawa to get a little bit of revenge on Brian Kendrick for everything he's done to him. And it also gave me a reason to pick a babyface on a show that is going to be pretty heel-heavy with victories. So I'm going to pick Swann and Tozawa in that match. Neville versus Jack Gallagher. Gallagher is over. It seems like fans really like him. I have no doubt that he will win the Cruiserweight title in the future. I just don't want to see it happen at FastLane. I've mentioned that I wanted to see Neville have a nice long run. Clearly, that's not going to happen. He's not going to be holding this belt until SummerSlam or anything like that, but I think he at least needs to carry it into WrestleMania. So I'm going to pick Neville to somehow retain the title against Jack Gallagher. I don't know if he's going to have to cheat to do it or whatever, but I think he'll come out of this match as champion. Although it would not surprise me if Gallagher won. But I think considering that Neville's already held the belt for a little while, you might as well have him go into Mania at this point. If they want to have him drop it there, fine, whatever. But this would seem like a strange place to do it, so I'm reluctantly going to pick Neville to retain, although with the Cruiserweight division, you can never tell. Enzo and Cass are challenging Gallows and Anderson for the Raw Tag Team titles. I'm going to pick Enzo and Cass to win this match via disqualification. I think Gallows and Anderson need to retain the titles here. I think they should go into WrestleMania as champions. Enzo and Cass, I can't tell what the hell's going on. I pitched the idea of Cass eventually turning on Enzo because Enzo is a weak link. He costs them a lot of matches, and he's just not a very credible member of the tag team. Maybe Cass gets fed up, annihilates him, and beats the holy hell out of him one week and turns heel. Or maybe in the future, Cass goes on a singles run and Enzo just remains by his side as in a managerial role. They never even won the tag team titles in NXT, I don't believe. It looks like WWE might actually put the belts on them, and that could be something we see at WrestleMania. I hope not. I just don't like the Enzo and Cass team. I'm sorry to say that. I appreciate both of their individual abilities. I think Cass is an absolute monster and is going to be a huge star one day. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody crazier or more entertaining than Enzo in my life. So it's not that I dislike these guys. It's just their shtick is, I don't know, it's just something that I'm not that into, and I don't know if I even want to see them win the tag team belts. But if they do, I don't think it'll be at Fastlane. I think they will win this match via disqualification somehow, which will then give them another opportunity maybe at WrestleMania in a multi-tag team type of match, probably with Sheamus and Cesaro involved, although if Sheamus and Cesaro are not involved in a tag title match at Mania, they could potentially be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I don't know. But right now, considering Sheamus and Cesaro are still on the hunt for those tag team titles, it looks like they're building to a three-way or a four-way at Mania. So whatever happens at Fastlane, I think Gallows and Anderson will retain. But I picked Enzo and Cass to win via disqualification just to give me another babyface. Picking up a victory on the show is pretty much my thinking on that. Sasha Banks taking on Nia Jax. You got to go with Nia here. I don't see any reason why not. They're pushing her. They're pushing her hard. Sasha's been rumored to turn heel in the near future anyway, so what's the point of beating Nia? Have Nia win this match. Have Nia squash her. Fuck it. Who cares? And while we're on the subject of the girls, Bayley, of course, will be defending the Raw Women's Championship against Charlotte. You gotta go with Charlotte. How can you not? How can you not predict Charlotte in this match? She is something 16-0, 17-0, something like that in pay-per-view title matches. If she is finally going to drop a pay-per-view match, I don't see Fastlane being the stage for that. I see them saving that for something like WrestleMania, maybe even a SummerSlam if they stretch it out that far. But I talked a lot about all these women earlier on, and you guys know that Charlotte is the favorite. I'm picking her to win, which will make her, a 5-time women's champion? That's nuts. Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe also have their big one-on-one match. That should be a good second or third match on the card, a good solid contest. Hopefully the match is really good. Hopefully the match showcases both guys and entertains the hell out of us. And in the end, we see Samoa Joe getting his hand raised. He's been booked as a monster. He's Triple H's henchman. He's beaten everybody he's faced so far. I don't see Sami Zayn being the one to defeat him. Unless Seth Rollins makes an appearance, that is very possible. I mean, they still have to do more building to get to this Triple H and Seth Rollins match. So maybe Seth interferes and helps Sami Zayn beat Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe doesn't have to lose face. It also gives Sami Zayn a big victory heading into WrestleMania. Maybe they can even do a rematch with Joe and Zayn at WrestleMania if you don't put them in the Battle Royal or something like that. There's a lot of things that they could do. So barring any Seth Rollins interference, maybe him trying to get a little bit of revenge on Triple H and Samoa Joe for that matter for putting him on the shelf. He could show up and part Samoa Joe's hair with the crutch. I don't know. But still at the end of the day, I think Joe is going to get his hand raised in this match. They should continue to book him and have him win matches the way they are going into WrestleMania. Make him look really big and really unstoppable. And it still remains to be seen what he even does at WrestleMania. We will be talking about that in detail in the next few weeks. Braun Strowman taking on Roman Reigns. Everybody is pointing to The Undertaker interfering in this match. I even talked about that earlier on. I mean, it really doesn't matter if Roman Reigns loses a whole bunch of matches right now, the way he lost at the Royal Rumble twice, lost to Samoa Joe on Raw, has gotten his ass kicked by Braun Strowman every week on Monday Night Raw. So none of this is really going to harm him if he does wind up going into WrestleMania to defeat The Undertaker. So maybe The Undertaker interferes in this thing. Maybe just you get the gong. Maybe Taker doesn't even need to come out there. I mean, when you see what Braun Strowman has done to Roman Reigns, it's not like he needs help. He's been kicking ass, so maybe he just needs that tiny distraction. Maybe he's annihilating Roman Reigns throughout the whole match. Roman Reigns fights back and fights back and fights back, much like he did with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31, where it looks like he almost has him beat, hits him with a Superman punch, hits him with a spear, hits him with another Superman punch, and right before he could potentially get the winning pinfall, you hear the gong. The lights go out for 10 seconds. They come back on. There's no Undertaker, but it's enough time for Braun Strowman to recover and hit Roman Reigns with the power slam, pinning him, getting the victory. And the next night on Raw, Roman Reigns can call out the Undertaker, and you can finally have your face-to-face confrontation. So I'm going to pick Braun Strowman to get the victory in this match. I think he beats Roman Reigns with help from the Undertaker himself or from the Undertaker's music. And finally, the main event, WWE Universal title on the line, Kevin Owens defending against Goldberg. I talked a lot about all the possibilities for this match earlier on. We could see Brock Lesnar interfere. Chris Jericho seems very likely to interfere. We could even see Triple H and Samoa Joe if they chose to come out there and help Kevin Owens, especially if Triple H is going to build a faction after WrestleMania. But at the end of the day, the more and more I think about it, I think Goldberg and Brock, if it's the main event, a title needs to be on the line, so you probably should put the belt on Goldberg. You got to know when they signed him, he was probably promised something like this, and at least if they are going to put the belt, the world title, on a guy like Goldberg, much like they did with The Rock a couple of years ago, it's only for a short time. He's only going to hold the belt for a month. It's not going to be enough to bother us. It's not going to be like when Brock won it, and then he was off of TV. I mean, he didn't defend that belt for like 90 days at one point. So they will be in that same boat again. If Goldberg wins the Universal title and then drops it to Brock at Mania, it's not like Brock's going to work every week. So between Mania and when he drops it, possibly at SummerSlam, it seems very likely that when you look way ahead, that if Goldberg wins from Owens and Brock wins from Goldberg, that Brock will probably drop the belt at SummerSlam either to Braun Strowman or potentially Roman Reigns. Plus, you got to remember, Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens have a lot to resolve. Chris Jericho still is the United States champion, and right now, the way everything is setting up, it seems like it makes a lot of sense for Owens and Jericho to have their big match at WrestleMania. A title belt can still be on the line in that thing, and Goldberg and Brock can close out WrestleMania for the title. And I've mentioned this before too. The Universal title is brand new. It's only been in existence since last summer. Finn Balor held it for one day. Kevin Owens has held it ever since. If you put that title on a guy like Goldberg and then put that title on a guy like Brock and then have that title defended in the main event of WrestleMania, it gives it a lot of credibility in a short amount of time. That belt is new and it needs to be established. What better way to establish it than put it on some legendary, iconic wrestlers and have it defended in the main event of your biggest show of the year? To me, it seems kind of likely and obvious at this point. So I am picking Goldberg somehow. Don't know how they're going to book it. Don't know how it's all going to work out. But at the end of the day, I do see Goldberg winning the Universal title from Kevin Owens. So there you go. Just to recap, I'm picking Swan and Tozawa. I'm picking Neville. I'm picking Enzo and Cass via DQ. Picking Nia Jax, picking Charlotte, picking Samoa Joe, picking Braun Strowman, and picking Goldberg to all get victories at Fastlane. So let me know what you think. I will be up here, by the way, Sunday night watching Fastlane, drinking some delicious local IPAs, so feel free to live tweet with me at GoodMicWork on Twitter. I'll also be up here a few hours after Fastlane ends to give you a review on it. Let's move on to SmackDown now. This show was pretty good as well. There was a lot of stuff that went down in this thing. I like the way the show opened with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon watching the footage of the Battle Royal from last week because we saw that horrible botched ending. I mean, Luke Harper clearly won that Battle Royal. It was 1,000,000% obvious to everybody. And it was kind of cool the way WWE acknowledged the botching. I mean, they were looking at the screen together, Shane and Daniel Bryan were, and Shane was kind of like, yeah, that was a really dumb decision, but you know what? You did the best you could. There was a bad angle. The referees didn't see it. You know, you probably did what I would have done, but in retrospect now, we can clearly see that that was a mistake. They should have awarded the match to Luke Harper. AJ Styles shows up. He seems very paranoid and very concerned about his spot. He's making it obvious that he knows that he lost, but he's trying to blow it off and be like, oh, it is what it is. No big deal. I guess that just means I gotta wrestle Luke Harper tonight just to see who goes into the main event of WrestleMania to face Bray Wyatt. Oh well, right? And the match he had with Harper was pretty damn good. And yup, sure enough, they did the tease with AJ and Shane McMahon and the whole deal. And here we thought Luke Harper was on the verge of this mega push, this huge babyface push, even being put in a title match at WrestleMania, only to have it all taken away from him. So I guess that was either never the plan or it's not the plan yet. I like Luke Harper so much. We all do. Cut a great promo on SmackDown as well. The backstage vignette or creepy-ass thing that he did. I'm actually a little bit sad for him, to be honest, because I was really looking forward to seeing him in there with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton in a triple threat match or something like that, but he lost. Basically lost twice to AJ Styles. AJ beats him the first time, Harper has his foot on the rope, and then Shane McMahon comes down to the ring and restarts the match. Where the fuck was Shane McMahon last week during the controversy of the Battle Royal? Why didn't they restart that match? I know on Talking Smack they kind of explained it saying, well, there's time constraints, the show was about to go off the air, we didn't have time to restart the match. Okay, fine, I get all of that. But it's just kind of funny the way they make up all the rules as they go along. After the match is restarted, AJ finds himself on the outside of the ring arguing with Shane. Luke Harper comes up to deliver a super kick, but AJ moves and he nails Shane McMahon. AJ eventually gets Luke back in the ring and hits him with the big springboard 450 splash for the victory and wins the match basically twice to go on to face Bray Wyatt, so he thinks, at WrestleMania. And then after the match, he's kind of staring down Shane McMahon. Seems pretty happy that Shane got kicked in the face, kind of got what he deserved, and they're planting that seed there. Fast forward now to the main event segment, which was Bray Wyatt's big promo, his invocation that he was plugging all night. And he's out there, belt looks great on him. I love Bray as the world champion, cuts a really good promo. And then Randy Orton shows up on the big Tron, and apparently Bray Wyatt thinks that he has sent Randy Orton to the Wyatt compound to do something. I forgot what it was. And in kind of a little twist, I didn't expect the turn to come this quick. Randy Orton turns on Bray Wyatt and says the whole thing was a ruse all along. I lured you into this false sense of security, and for the first time in your life, you're powerless. You're helpless. You can't do anything to me. You have no power over anything. You feel naked out there because I am in your house. And then he starts dumping gasoline everywhere, all over the grave, all over this shack or compound or wherever the hell he is, and then lights it on fire. So Randy Orton commits arson in front of the entire world, burns down the Wyatt compound and the resting place of Sister Abigail, and Bray Wyatt loses his shit. I liked it. I mean, it had like this horror movie type of feel to it. The camera zooms on Randy Orton's face and the music playing at the same time. It's different. It's something a little funny and hokey sometimes, but it's WrestleMania season. You got to pull out all the stops. I actually like the segment. You knew that they were going to lead up to a turn at some point. You knew from the minute Randy Orton uttered the words, if you can't beat him, join him, that Randy Orton had an agenda. He had a plan for this. And his whole plan was to gain Bray Wyatt's trust and then to screw him in the end and have his whole world come crashing down around him. He says, I will see you at WrestleMania. I will be taking that title from you. And the show ends with Randy Orton doing his pose in front of the burning Wyatt shack. It was really cool. So it looks like that match is back on now. Where this leaves AJ Styles, I don't know. Clearly it looks like they're going to bump him from the match, which is going to piss him off. And he's going to wind up challenging Shane McMahon, I guess, at WrestleMania. And I only saw about a second or two of Talking Smack, but I did see AJ confronting Shane McMahon. Like, I'm still good to go for WrestleMania, right? It's too bad for Randy Orton. He can't just have his match back. And Shane McMahon is kind of like, yeah, we got a lot of things to think about. So I guess next week on SmackDown, we will probably get the announcement that Randy Orton will face Bray Wyatt. They could still add AJ and make it a triple threat, but that seems pointless at this point. The issue is between Bray and Randy Orton. That one-on-one match needs to happen. So I guess what they're going to do is Shane McMahon is going to tell AJ that he's no longer in the match, and then they'll start arguing. They'll have their thing. There might even be a brawl. Maybe AJ attacks Shane McMahon, and they're going to lead in to the big AJ-Shane match at WrestleMania, which now that it's pretty much all but confirmed, I'm okay with it. You know, at first I was like, no, absolutely not in a million years, no. But the more I think about it, for a guy like AJ Styles, somebody that's come into the WWE a year ago and has made such a huge impact, and he's been one of my favorite guys on the roster since he got there, and he did a great job carrying the world title. To wind up losing it at the Royal Rumble and not being able to be in a title match at WrestleMania disappointed me for AJ, but this is a match that actually is going to be super high profile because Shane McMahon is Shane McMahon. He's the owner's son. He's been involved in a lot of big-time marquee matches in pay-per-views and WrestleManias throughout his entire life and career. So AJ Styles might not be working for a title. He might be working with a guy that you have to wonder why the hell is Shane even wrestling in the first place, but for the type of match that it is and for the status it's going to have on the WrestleMania card, it puts AJ Styles in a big-time match, not a throwaway match, not one that's going to be forgotten or open the show. If last year was any indication, with Shane McMahon basically diving off the top of the fucking building, who knows what him and AJ will do at WrestleMania. And AJ is just as capable as Shane is of diving off shit. Last year, Shane was working with Taker, and Taker is very limited. AJ is not. So that match actually could surprise us and be very, very good. We had a couple of really good promos on Miz TV. The Miz was out there with Maurice, and their guest was going to be John Cena. The Miz cut his promo first. He said, John, sit there and shut up and don't say a word. Cut a really good promo on John Cena. Talked about how John Cena criticized The Rock for leaving for Hollywood and not making WWE his primary mission in life. And now here John Cena is doing the same thing. The minute Hollywood comes calling, he goes off and does movies and TV shows and all this shit, and he's turning into the very thing that he once criticized. I liked all of that, and I liked John Cena's promo. I mean, he looked at The Miz and he goes, you know, you sit there and accuse me of having all this power backstage and pulling the strings and affecting guys' careers. Trust me, if I had any pull in this company, I would not be talking to you right now during WrestleMania time. I would be talking to The Undertaker, and whoa, did that get some oohs and ahs from the crowd. And I liked his ending sentence too. I forget what he said, but he said something along the lines of, Miz, you're not The Undertaker, but if you push me again, you're a dead man. I like that. And then Maurice kind of grabs Cena as he's trying to leave, cuts a promo on him. You don't talk to my husband that way or whatever, and then slaps him. And then Cena laughs and he goes, oh man, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Nikki comes running down to the ring and runs off Maurice and Miz, and they retreat into the crowd. And Nikki and John sit there and hug and kiss, and they're together. Now, I don't know if they've even announced this match for Mania yet. I guess that'll come in the next couple of weeks, unless there was a challenge and it was accepted. I forget. I don't think so. So we're going to get that match at WrestleMania, most likely. That'll be set up probably next week, because Cena and Nikki would then later on do a backstage segment where they would be interrupted by James Ellsworth and Carmella. And that was really funny stuff, especially the way Cena was talking to Ellsworth. And they said, hey, guess what? How about you guys take us on next week in a mixed tag team match on SmackDown? So next week, Cena and Nikki will get a tune-up for WrestleMania by taking on Ellsworth and Carmella. You gotta know that Miz and Maurice will get involved in that. I would like to see Miz and Maurice come out there and cost them the match. Why not? Give Ellsworth and Carmella the rub, man. Give Ellsworth a victory over John Cena. He's already defeated AJ Styles like 3 times. Now give him a victory over Cena. Holy shit. So yeah, have the Miz and Maurice show up next week and cost Cena and Nikki their match with Carmella and Ellsworth, and that could be a perfect way to officially set up the match for WrestleMania. Other than that, SmackDown wasn't that eventful. We had Mickie James taking on Becky Lynch in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Becky won that, I think 2 falls to 1, with the ending seeing Mickie tap out to the disarmer. She had some interference from Alexa Bliss as well, but despite that, Becky was still able to pick up the win. Alexa was then interviewed later on backstage, and Natalya interrupted, and it looks like we're going to get a Natalya and Alexa Bliss feud now for the women's title, which, again, much like the Raw situation, if they wind up doing Charlotte and Nia, that's 2 heels. Now you got 2 more heels on SmackDown working for the belt. I don't know if it's going to be a one-on-one deal at Mania or if it will be a multi-woman kind of thing. Not sure yet, but I guess Natty is definitely in line. I mean, she's an awesome women's wrestler. She's been on the roster a long time. She just won her feud, sort of, with Nikki Bella. So yeah, I suppose she's in line, and she makes the most sense for a contender right now, I guess. We saw Dolph Ziggler beat Apollo Crews in a chairs match. There was chairs all over the ring. I think Dolph wound up up crotching Cruz on it and rolling him up for the victory there. Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin cut a promo on each other. Ambrose was in the ring. Actually, I think he had a match with Curt Hawkins. I missed it because I walked out of the room for like 30 seconds and the match was over. So Ambrose made quick work of Curt Hawkins, but then stuck around to cut a good promo on Baron Corbin. And then Baron Corbin showed up on the big Tron, cut a pretty good promo in his own right. And this is a feud that I really am enjoying so far and think I'm going to continue to enjoy. And I've been saying it for months or weeks or whenever this issue between them started, that they should do a one-on-one match for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. It's been a few years since we've seen a one-on-one encounter for that belt, and I would like to see it this year with these two guys. And shit, add a stipulation, do whatever you want, falls count anywhere, no holds barred, fucking whatever. There's a lot of bad blood here, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if a stipulation was involved, but put the belt on Baron Corbin. I think you should. He's awesome. He won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal last year. He's been on a roll. I appreciate his work, and I think they should give him a run with a belt. So in the end, I think he should wind up defeating Dean Ambrose. So that pretty much wraps it up for this week of WWE TV. Got a ton of other wrestling news to get into as well, and I want to elaborate a little bit more on Tom Phillips. He was on SmackDown on Tuesday as if nothing was wrong. WWE, of course, would never make mention of anything, and he went about his job like it was no big deal. So I don't know behind the scenes how mad WWE is at him. I'm sure they had to talk to him or had management speak to him about something. But really, when you look at it, like I said in that little bonus episode that I uploaded a few days ago when this story broke, is that provided that nothing illegal was going on, provided this girl wasn't underage or anything like that, this is really none of our business. And on top of that, what happened to burden of proof? I mean, this girl claims that the reason she ratted out Tom Phillips is because she found out he was engaged. Well, how do we know that's even true? This girl might have been totally aware that he was engaged. Maybe they had a falling out, or maybe she got pissed at him for some reason, and this was her way of getting revenge. Even that selfie that Tom Phillips took on the airplane, the one that was going around that everybody saw, that was probably just in response to a picture that she sent him. She could have sent him a picture of her tits or her ass or something like that, and then he sent her a picture of how excited he looked about it or something like that. So really, at the end of the day, I don't think this is a big deal. Hopefully we'll forget about it. Tom Phillips has got some problems in his life, obviously. I mean, he's engaged. Well, he's probably not engaged anymore. But aside from that, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't break any laws. This is his own personal life, his own private text messages that he sent to somebody, and they chose to release it to the public and embarrass him. But aside from embarrassing him, he didn't do anything. You know, this is not a guy that needs to be locked up or fired or blacklisted or hated on or anything like this. This is his personal, private life. Like I said in my last commentary when I discussed this, if it was me, I would probably be a little bit more careful when texting certain things to certain people, especially somebody that I might not know very well or I might be having an affair with. Basically doing anything I can to make sure that nothing comes out and makes me look like an ass. Tom really didn't do that. He should have been more careful, but other than that, you know, what can you really do to the guy? So hopefully WWE will just not worry about it. At the most, maybe have a conversation with him. Hey, come on, dude, keep your shit together. Make sure something like this doesn't happen again. It looks bad on you, looks bad on the company, and maybe give him somewhat of a lecture. But as far as firing him or suspending him, these are not fireable or suspendable offenses. They're not. So even though I was giving Tom Phillips a little bit of shit in that commentary and maybe poking fun at him or making light of the situation, really at the end of the day, I have nothing against the guy. If he's unhappy in his relationship, if he wants to be unfaithful to his fiance or anything like that, that's his business. Those are his decisions to make. I thought possibly WWE would keep him off TV for 1 week while things kind of settled down or blew over, because we saw that Phillips had made all of his social media accounts private. That way he doesn't have to interact with the public or anything during this time. But they didn't. They put him right out there in front of everybody, made him take it like a man. He was probably getting heckled, I imagine, a lot from the audience and shit like that. But, you know, they made him go out there and do his job and resume his career like he normally would. And that's the only thing you really can do. So I'm in support of Tom Phillips. Yes, it's never pleasant when you hear somebody cheating on the person they're with or anything like that, but we don't know the situation. It's between Tom and his fiance and the chick he was texting, and it's his own personal private life, and provided he's not breaking any laws, he has every right to do whatever he wants. So Tom, I'm just here to let you know that I support you. I don't hold this against you. I think it's a little bit funny, and I think it definitely sucks that you got caught in this situation, but you're not a criminal. You're just a man with a dick. Best of luck to you, my friend. We also had a WWE departure. Jack Swagger has requested his release from the WWE, and apparently they gave it to him. The news all over the internet right now is that he is no longer with WWE, and that's good. I mean, I don't even remember the last time I saw Jack Swagger, and I don't even remember what brand he is on. I have no fucking clue which show Jack Swagger is on. And it's probably a good thing that he's leaving too. They have not done jack shit with this guy in years. And he'd be much better off at this point working in Japan, working the independents. He can always come back at a later date. And he might have done the smart thing by getting his ass out of the WWE, because if the rumors are true about Kurt Angle coming back into the WWE and doing something, and if he ever gets physical, a lot of these returning stars always beat up some, current roster jobber or something like that. And since Jack Swagger is kind of that all-American American and uses the ankle lock, I can easily envision a scenario where Kurt Angle comes down and kicks his ass. So maybe he wanted to get himself out of the WWE before that situation even presented itself and he got humiliated, which might be a very smart move. So I wish Jack Swagger nothing but the absolute best. I've always liked him. I've always had his back. I always thought he was a decent talent, and WWE never did anything with him. So hopefully he'll go off somewhere else and be a lot happier and make just as much money. And speaking of departures, we got a couple of big ones. A lot of names are leaving TNA. And two really, really big ones have just left the company this week, and that, of course, is Broken Matt Hardy and Broken Jeff Hardy. The Hardy Boys are officially gone from TNA, and rumors are all over the place that they could actually appear in the WWE. I would absolutely love to see the Hardys back. I can't believe they ever left. I still have a sour taste in my mouth the way Jeff left back in 2010 and showed up on that Monday Night Impact episode there. That was a long time ago. That was 7 fucking years ago. Can you believe that? That was 2010. That was 3 months before I even started doing commentaries. And now Jeff is a little older. It looks like all those crazy personal demons that he had back in his WWE days are for the most part over. They seem to be reborn, him and Matt both. Matt especially. Jeff Hardy has always been a star, and I think in WWE's eyes, he is still the star of that duo. But Matt Hardy has really reinvented himself, and this whole Broken Matt Hardy gimmick that we all thought was a joke, a year ago almost, is now turned into one of the most entertaining things in professional wrestling. So perhaps they could come in to the WWE. I've heard a few people talking about maybe they come out at WrestleMania and interrupt the New Day. That could be a great idea. If they weren't going to do the Hulk Hogan thing, having Broken Matt and Jeff show up there could be a pretty amazing sight to see. Could you imagine if they came out there and interrupted the New Day? Imagine the pop. Imagine all those people at WrestleMania going absolutely apeshit in Orlando. And apparently the Hardys are even booked to be in Orlando that weekend. They either have an appearance or a match on the Independents. I don't know. But they're going to be in the area, and it's well within the realm of possibility that they actually show up at WrestleMania. But, there's a flip side of that. If the WWE brought back in the Hardy Boys, especially Matt with this new Broken Matt Hardy character that he's developed over the past year, WWE is going to completely fuck it up. They would overproduce it. They would ruin everything that's right about it. Part of the brilliance of this character is I swear Matt just makes this shit up out of thin air, kind of flies by the seat of his pants. He's excellent in that horrible accent. I think the worse the accent is, the better it is. And he looks like he's just out there entertaining himself and having fun and just kind of being carefree. And it's getting over. The fans love it. If WWE gets their hands on this character, it's probably going to be awful. And we're going to be reduced to watching stupid-ass segments on Monday Night Raw, probably a lot of shit with the New Day, a lot of dumb, hokey backstage segments that aren't funny. I'm sure some of it will be very entertaining, but in the long run, I don't think WWE would have any idea what to do with a character like that Matt has developed. So as much as I would love to see the Hardy Boys come back in and finish their career in the WWE, I think they should. Given the status of Matt Hardy's current demeanor and character, it's something that I don't think the WWE is going to be able to do as well as TNA. It's the only thing WWE is not going to be able to do as well as TNA, because TNA is on the verge of going out of business here, but they did some excellent work with those Hardy compound segments and that total deletion and whatever the fuck the other one was called. All those crazy skits and like little mini movies that they made was all great shit. And I just don't think WWE can do it that well. I mean, they tried to. Remember the New Day brawled with the Wyatt family right around the same time of the final deletion or whatever it was. And it wasn't as entertaining. So I think I can speak for all of us that I'm extremely nervous that WWE will completely fuck up the Broken Matt Hardy character if he does in fact come into the WWE. But, the Hardy Boy fan in me, I grew up near those guys in an area just a few towns away. I saw those guys a lot as they grew up, watched them through their careers in the independents and the WWE and to the heights that they've been able to take themselves to. Hall of Fame tag team easily. Jeff Hardy is a Hall of Fame singles competitor, former world champion. Both of these guys have held belts everywhere, and they should finish in the WWE, considering that's basically where they got their start. They went from their backyard to WWE. So that's where they belong, I feel, but, I just don't trust WWE to handle that Broken Matt Hardy character properly. Also, Maria and Mike Bennett have also left TNA, and I did see that WWE wished Maria a happy birthday. And we've also been hearing rumors of WWE contacting former divas or some of the girls that were around, 10 years ago. Kelly's been rumored to come back in. Maybe they can have some interest in bringing Maria in. I mean, I always thought Maria was the most gorgeous diva they had. I mean, she is absolutely fucking beautiful, and she's still hot as hell. And I would have no problem seeing her beautiful face in the WWE again. So if she turns up there with Bennett in the WWE at some point, no problem. Matt Morgan actually is also teasing a return to the wrestling business. I don't think he would be going to the WWE. He'll probably be heading back to TNA or something like that. But seeing him come into the WWE as a big bad monster, he was there 10, 15 years ago. They can definitely make use of him, maybe on the SmackDown brand or something like that, or as a possible opponent for Brock Lesnar or Braun Strowman or even Roman Reigns. So having Matt Morgan back in the company would be fine with me, but I have a feeling he's going to go back to TNA. I guess we'll have to wait and see. The only other thing I have written down was the news that was announced, I believe, yesterday, maybe the day before, and that is that YouTube is going to be offering a cable service. Basically, it's going to be like $35 a month. I've only read the bare minimum basic details on this. It looks like they're going to have like the big four networks. You can catch all your live sports, a lot of movies, maybe even some movie channels. I don't know. But bottom line, it's going to be $35 a month. That's it. And you can stream some cable channels. And that has GoodMicWork's name written all over it. I was one of the first people to sign up for YouTube Red just because I hate watching ads. And for me, it was well worth the $10 to pay to YouTube to never have to watch another ad again. And now if they are going to be offering cable service, I have no use for cable. I mean, I got 3 TVs in the house here, but I'm never turning on the cable TV ever unless I'm watching a game. It's only for sporting events that I really find myself watching TV. I don't DVR anything. I do everything on the computer. I stream everything through Netflix or Hulu or WWE Network. If I'm ever watching ESPN, I'm streaming that too on my Apple TV, which you need a cable account to do that. So I still have to pay for the cable, and it's very expensive. So I'm definitely going to look into this YouTube option, because I would love to call the cable company and say, fuck off, I don't need you, just give me some internet and that's it, and I've got all my regular TV watching covered now. So I'll be interested to hear a little bit more about it and see what YouTube has planned. But for $35, I mean, hell, it sounds more than worth it for me if it means I can actually cancel my cable. So I'm really excited to see what the future holds for that. Apparently it's going to be launched in the spring, which is just about a month or two away. So if I wind up signing up for it, I will let all of you know how it is. I think that's it. I don't have any other notes written down. Damn, I talked for a long time. I don't know how long this commentary is going to wind up being after I edit it. I would assume it's going to be well over an hour. Thank you so much for listening and sitting through this with me. I know we discussed a lot. Just as a reminder, I will be up here this Sunday during FastLane, so please join me on Twitter at GoodMicWork. I'll be live tweeting throughout the whole show, and I will be up here with a reaction commentary a few hours after it's over. I'm also giving myself a 2-week deadline on my WrestleMania Memories commentary. I'm going to bust that out and focus hard on it and try to get it to you a couple of weeks before WrestleMania. It was actually 1 year ago yesterday that I uploaded that commentary. It lasted for about 9-10 months, and WWE took it down near the end of last year. So I'm starting to work on it, replacing all that video footage with pictures. It's a long, annoying task, but I'm getting there, and I'll be able to bust it out here in the next week or two and hopefully give it to you by like March 15th. That's my plan. So you guys take care. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Fastlane on Sunday. And let me know all of your opinions and ideas in the comments below. I'll talk to you Sunday night. Until next time, peace.